Community and business are each made stronger when they are intertwined. Next up, Julie Thompson sits down with Donna Healy, VP and Branch Manager for Rockland Trust, a community bank where each relationship matters.
Donna Healy, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So you're the branch manager of Rockland Trust's Court Street location.
Yes.
And I'd love you to tell the listeners and viewers here about your background with the bank and what brought you to where you are here today.
Oh, love to. So I started with the bank in 2009, and I was a part-time teller at that time, stay-at-home mom, part-time teller. And as my children grew, I grew within the banking world, and I became a customer service representative working at the desk, and then here I am as a branch manager 14 years later.
Wow. How long have you been a branch manager?
I have been a branch manager nearly 5 years.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank
Always
you.
in the same location?
No, I've actually been at the Manamet location, the Duxbury location, and now Court Street.
Great.
I came back to Plymouth where I live.
You came back where you live. Now, were you always interested in finance or banking, or what was your upbringing and background in education?
So in terms of finance, I have background in accounts receivable, and then I worked for a subsidiary of State Street Bank, Boston Financial, just handling trades and things like that, customer-oriented trades, and just taking phone calls and such like that. But and I have a passion for it.
For finance.
Passion for finance,
yeah.
passion for numbers.
Yeah. Oh, good for you. Because
Yes.
people either love numbers or they don't.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I have a passion for the customer base.
Oh, that's
Anything
wonderful.
customer facing.
Okay, that's great. So now Rockland Trust, certainly anyone familiar with our area knows that Rockland Trust is everywhere. You have over 100 branches. Can you tell a little bit about the expansion of this community bank? Because it's pretty remarkable.
Well, in terms of, since I've started with the bank, we've had several acquisitions, and they've been, from my opinion, very well-placed acquisitions. They're thought out and just really proportioned where needed, and where we can geographically place ourselves where a Rockland Trust isn't located there, and maybe there is a need for the customers in that area for us.
Are you just in Massachusetts?
We are just in
Okay.
Massachusetts.
So you have all those banks just in Massachusetts?
That is
And the
correct.
islands, right?
And the Cape and Islands,
Yeah,
yes.
and the Cape and Islands. I was just on Martha's Vineyard and I saw a Rockland Trust. I said,
Yes,
oh,
you did.
they're here too.
Yes, we are.
Now, your Rockland Trust is self-identified really, as a community-centric bank. What are the different ways that your bank actually serves and supports the local community?
We serve the local community in many ways, some of which is the Credit for Life fairs, the School on Wheels program for children, and the Reading Makes Sense program, again, another child-focused program, and our Mrs. Money program initiative that has been widely acknowledged there within the bank.
Yeah.
And just basically promoting the parades in Plymouth, and that's focused within the
America's
Plymouth
Hometown
area.
Celebration.
Yes, and then the
also
4th
known
of July
as the Thanksgiving
as well.
and the July 4th parade.
Yes.
So you also have employees that do an awful lot of volunteering in the community. Is that something that is required? That is just part of the environment that you work in?
So it's not required, but we do allow or give our staff members two paid volunteer days each year. And that's to use, and it could be something that is not bank sponsored.
Sure.
It could be something near and dear to their hearts.
Yeah.
So the 8 hours paid is just something that they can choose to take.
Oh, that's
and
wonderful.
They just take the day off,
And they support something.
Support something of their choosing.
That's wonderful. Now, you mentioned a couple of the different programs that you run. One of them is a couple of them that I found fascinating. Your Reading Makes Sense, and sense is CENTS, and the S is a $, which is adorable, is for kids.
Yes.
So talk about why you did that and how you give that to children.
So that is a phenomenal program that basically the children who have to read anyway for summer school or, for their education to get these summer reading programs, they read 10 books. They get $2.50 per book. They just love it. They put a lot of effort into these books, and they put a synopsis of what the story was that they read, and they draw a picture. I've seen a child yesterday, as a matter of fact, that added pages so that they can continue their story on that. So
that's great.
they embrace it. The children embrace it, and it's from grades 1 through 8th.
Yeah. Now, is this for your customers that you do this, or do you go into the schools and do this?
So I have gone to the library, and we've put out books there.
Yep.
And some schools, they ask us for the books to hand out to the children, and they don't have to be a customer. However, when they're credited, they go into a savings account at Rockland Trust.
So they're $2.50 per book, goes right into the kids' own savings account.
Yeah. Once they reach 4 books, they get the deposit put right in.
Oh, that's great. Now, what about Ms. Money's Classroom? What is that?
Ms. Money's Classroom is an interactive classroom through online channels that children from kindergarten through grade 5 can actually go on, and there's activity sheets, and they can do this with their parent or guardian, and they can just enjoy learning
About money.
about money.
Because kids these days, really, there's not a curriculum in most school systems that teach what is the value of money, and how do you earn money, and how do you save money, and what is interest. And I mean, there's just so much that kids really should know that they just don't know. And let's parlay that into the Credit for Life Fair that you guys do with, like I saw one at Pembroke High School.
Yes.
Can you talk about what was the idea behind your Credit for Life Fair?
So we had been doing it with Plymouth schools, the high schools, for some time, and then they approached us at Plymouth, and we had a couple of team members that had children that went to the Plymouth High school system.
You mean Pembroke?
Pembroke.
Yeah, okay.
Pembroke High, my apologies.
That's okay.
And so they had a need.
Yeah.
And we worked together with the Plymouth High School to see what successes were achieved, and kind of learned from that.
Yeah.
And we presented it to the Pembroke High School.
Right, to their Pathways program.
So that has been very well received.
And so that's more for obviously high school age, and that talks about your first job, and affording a car payment, and affording rent, and all the things that you have to do when you transition from a child into adulthood, really.
Right.
What kind of feedback did you get from the students that went through this?
Well, I can actually tell you hands-on. I've attended and helped out and volunteered at the Duxbury Credit for Life Fair, and I've got to tell you, I'm amazed at these children, young adults.
Yeah.
And they are allowed a budget, and how creative they get to stay within that budget.
Yeah.
They might, we've had people come in, some children come in, and they say, oh, well, we're going to room with this one and this one, a couple of different other students. And I said, well, isn't that interesting? You know that you can't afford it on your own.
Right. You need a roommate.
So you have roommates. So
Sure.
The way that they come about it, and
It's great.
they really know what they're doing. And I feel like this is a great step, great first step for these
This
students.
is something that all the high schools should do, and I think the junior high should do it too, because really it's junior high that you start maybe babysitting or a paper route, and you start getting some money. Right from the get-go, you should know about budgeting.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah,
Introducing it to the younger
group. Now, Rockland Trust also provides scholarships to students up to $3,000 for each scholarship. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So we take applicants in January, and they're awarded in May. And it's great. They submit an essay, and that's a needs-based scholarship that they.
And how many do you give out a year? Do you know?
16.
16?
Yes.
Every year?
Yes.
Now, can a student get a renewal, or do you give it to new students every year?
We do give it to new students every year.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, also, Rockland Trust did something with the business community about small businesses, big dreams.
Oh, yes.
Can you talk about that? That whole
Absolutely.
program and what that meant?
That's a great program for small businesses that maybe don't have quite the wherewithal to maybe have a startup or maybe stay afloat.
Yep.
They are working with one of our business officers. They develop a business plan similar to what Seed will do, and they nurture them through
Yeah.
the whole process. Again, they have to submit a video,
Yeah.
so they have to submit something, but and it's basically a commercial for
Right.
them, and the winner is chosen, and they get $20,000 towards their business.
Towards their business.
Which is a great foundation for them.
Right. So they're not only getting educated in maybe in an area of their business that they don't know how to
Correct.
do, or they need some support in, and then they vie for the grand prize.
Absolutely.
And you do that every year?
Yes, we do.
That's wonderful. Now, do you think that local banks in general do enough for the community?
I think you could always do more. I mean, that I will say right out of the gate. We can always do more.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But when there's more need,
Yep.
absolutely we should show up.
Yeah. You
So
do sponsor a
it's-
lot of things in the community.
Yes.
Roxanne. And a lot of the community banks do, which is wonderful. We're very lucky that we're in an area that we have a lot of engagement with community banks. And Rockland Trust certainly is one of the leaders in that that venue. And the last thing I wanted to ask you is, banking in general, people have they've changed their attitudes about banking. Like young people, they don't carry cash. It's all, there's the card, your debit card. There's a lot of people that don't trust banks. I'm not going to put my money in the banks. The banks, they could fail. There's a lot of misconceptions about what banks do and don't do. What do you think the biggest misconception is about banking or local banks in general?
Biggest misconception.
And I'm throwing you a curveball because I didn't.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. I think a lot of times people don't realize that we're here for you. That more so with the fraud that's out there.
Yeah.
People don't realize that you have resources, that we support you, and we'll help to identify things. We know how to identify certain things. Maybe it's a romance scam or something of that nature. They're out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people they're not aware.
They're not aware of it, yeah.
And trust us. Trust us to know what we're doing,
Right.
and stop in if you have any questions.
And no
We're
questions
happy
dumb, right? That's
No
the other thing.
question
People
is
have to
dumb.
realize that
No.
when it comes to your money, especially because that's to a lot of people that's the most important thing.
Finances is
Yeah.
a very personal thing.
It is. It's incredibly
And
personal.
we take that personally to you.
Yes.
So relax.
Yeah.
Come in.
Yeah.
And we'll guide you.
Do you foresee a day where there are no more brick and mortar banks, that it's all done remotely and online?
I have been asked this. I don't see that. I really don't. I think you're always going to see that. You've got all of these commercials out there for online banking.
Yeah.
They're not going to solve all your problems.
Right. They're
And
wonderful.
I
They're
think-
wonderful convenience for some people,
Correct.
but they're not the answer for everybody.
I don't think it's the answer.
Yeah. And I think when people are buying their first home or applying for an auto loan or have some big financial transaction that they're unsure about, there's nothing like a face-to-face conversation with a person.
That's what I
Yeah,
love.
especially a person that lives in your community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the face-to-face. I wouldn't do what I do.
Yeah,
and
if
I
you
wouldn't
didn't.
walk through the door if I didn't.
Oh, good for you. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about as far as what Rockland Trust does for the community or plans to do in the future?
I think we're just going to full steam ahead and hope that we can continue doing what we're doing and just supporting our community just the way that we
Well,
we
thank
have
you for
been.
all that you do for our community. We really do appreciate it.
Well, we are glad to do it.
Well,
Trust me.
And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Julie.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you've enjoyed this video by The Local Scene, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.